That might help.
Darkest Hours, or How to Torture Someone in 3 Steps or Less. For legal, non-CIA reasons, I have to clarify that was a joke. Either way, well, the darkest hour, or the black moment, or the moment, or the I forgot about the power of friendship moment is the time to do it, to tear their heart out, to make them realize they never had a chance and that no girl would ever truly love them in the first place. All is lost, give up. The last piece of cake has been eaten and the cake was a lie anyway.
True.
It's that point usually around the end of the second act before they realize that actually no things are worth fighting for and we're gonna give it the old college try chap anyway. And this video, like Brad Pitt's wife in Seven, comes to you in multiple parts.
Oh, what's in the box?
Making success meaningful, it's not over is it, don't worry about structure too much, and mental illness. I have been...
Okay. It never stays on screen long enough to be able to freaking write it down. Okay, so making success meaningful. It's not over, is it? Worry about it too much and mental illness. Oh, and for clarification, actually, let's make this the first fight, death of Fafnir.
I have been really slack recently at promoting Patreon, but it is important to do. My writing and world building videos take a ton of effort and hours and research and reading and writing to put together. And more importantly though, I like my work to remain freely accessible to everyone, not behind a paywall, and Patreon is the best way to avoid doing that if I don't want to do sponsorships every episode. If you, 1, have the ability to support me, and 2, want to, then Patreon is greatly appreciated, or buying my On Writing and World Building book, that's also just as great. I also do run 2 monthly patron workshops for writing over there, where we give feedback and we read through these works together that we put together. Yeah, so get in on that. Limited spaces, links down in the doobly-doo. Part 1, Making Success Meaningful. Failure or setbacks make success narratively meaningful in any story. Both character failure, where they give in to their worst impulses and definitively turn away from any growth they've had, like when you have one good healthy meal, and to reward yourself you have an entire cake, 3 whole pizzas, and a lifetime supply of lolly cake. And plot failure, when the stakes are lost or the villain has even won. The Dark Knight has its darkest hour every night because Gotham only gets 2 hours of sunlight a day, but the second act ends with a plot failure after the Joker forces Batman to choose between Harvey or Rachel, and Rachel dies. Harvey is mutilated and is becoming Two-Face, and Batman is on the verge of losing his already very few allies. But it also has a character setback. He is faced with a horrible realization. He can't beat the Joker ethically, without killing, without horribly invasive surveillance technology. In this darkest hour, he's not even sure if he has a moral code anymore. Failure makes the eventual success of our characters feel earned and meaningful. It gives a cathartic release from all of that tension, because we see what it means for a character to fail personally and narratively, and the darkest hour is the most important place to do that. And yes, I know Momo's a bit chunky. I am trying to thin her down, I promise. 1, the darkest hour is the most heart-wrenching setback because it feels like the character has so much to lose at this point, after a story full of growth and change. After Batman has repeatedly tried to stick to his morals of only...
So I figured out what 4K is, but it might be like 2 or 3 chapters. I don't know how best to break the chapters. You can choose where to stop. Usually, definitive time changes, or definitive character perspective, or definitive, like, action is usually how I'd split the chapter up. So, length of the chapters isn't as important as placement for pacing purposes.
Crippling people for life and saddling them with a lifetime of medical debt instead of killing them. And 2, it juxtaposes their success in the third act with their lowest point in the story just beforehand.
Yeah, exactly, right? Because it's like, They fall at Garuda and they have to raise themselves back up. They're finally back up at the top again, and boom, the mark knocks them back down to the bottom, and you got to start all over. I'll still take some time to try to break them down, but at least I figured out 4K for now. True.
Story beats each stand out, the lowest and highest points. Batman's decision not to kill the Joker in the climax means so much more because he doesn't give in even after we saw him come so close to doing so.
And it's kind of like the third part of The Darkest Hour, which is them coming back to fight the Monarch again at the end of the second book for the final time. And everything's just getting fucked because the battle is just too high power level for the planet. It's literally supposed to be like Goku and Frieza on Namek blowing the shit out of Namek because their power levels are just getting so fucking out of hand.
Otherwise, it's just the heroes pretty consistently getting closer to winning throughout the story structure. It doesn't get us to wonder if they're ever gonna be able to in the first place. But the real question is, how do you do this? Because your story is filled with little failures and setbacks, right? What makes The Darkest Hour different? Well, even if characters make mistakes or fail throughout the story, there's usually a glimmer of hope, or at least a convenient friendship power-up at the end. And to understand what that means, I think we gotta look at scene structure. Following from any kind of conflict or setback, there's usually something akin to a reactive scene, with a reaction, a dilemma, and a decision. So Boromir pulls a Here's Johnny on Frodo and the Fellowship breaks apart.
We'll take the ring.
Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas are devastated. Reaction. They then must choose whether to follow Frodo and Sam or pursue Pippin and Merry. Dilemma. And though difficult, they make a decision, and hope is rekindled, a new direction. Maybe the superhero team loses to the big bad grey CGI man, but it's the first time that they've really worked together as a team. There's a glimmer of hope. It may take time, or they may agonize over it, but generally characters find a new direction to go. A new thing that might bring them closer to their goal in the long run. These scenes...
Talk, what characters do you ship in my story? Definitely Belfry. Maybe Nell and Belfry. They're both a little bit crazy. I fucking love it.
give weight to the conflict and move the narrative forward, introducing a new goal or strategy.
But they have a
or
purpose.
obstacle. But in The Darkest Hour, characters don't do that. Blade Runner 2049 has probably my...
Yeah, and that's exactly why at the end of the book is The Darkest Hour, because it's like Husai begging Gaia to do anything she can to preserve the planet. But Gaia, this whole time, has basically known that the planet wasn't going to survive this. This had always been the only way it could have ever ended. And Husai fights against that as hard as he can, because he doesn't see the full picture. And then the hope comes after everyone dies, and the idea of consciousness, and all the consciousness returns back to Gaia. Oh shit, Eddie in the mix! Thank you for the follow! How's it going? Welcome to the stream!
Hi, sweetie.
Are you a writer,
Andrew
good
was
sir?
just telling me he used to Arch Commander Consummate and thinks he'd be a perfect match for us.
True.
I'm not that interested. Are you smoking?
Who?
You.
Why?
What? Why are you smoking?
Maybe.
What? When did you start smoking?
1989-ish?
So you have been lying. It all makes sense. The filled ashtrays, the burning pine-scented hairspray.
Yes, I'll say it. Her 3-pack-a-day voice?
True. Down my first chapter is about 800 words. Nice, that's not bad.
Favorite example of a Darkest Hour.
Not a
Deckard
bad
is
first
captured,
chapter. Yep.
Joy is killed, and Kay realizes he is not the born, chosen one replicant he thought he was. The foundation for all of his character growth just comes apart, and we're given that iconic Joy scene on the bridge. I love it so much. The reaction beat here is so much more intense than anything else in the film. And when faced with the dilemma whether to save Deckard, he makes the wrong decision. He turns away, he gives up. He's not stuck with the dilemma, he's not unable to decide or just processing the pain of losing Joy. The pain itself has been too much and he makes the wrong decision. He gives up. He turns away. He makes the decision that in no way brings him closer to the narrative goal. Darkest Hours aren't just meaningful because they're sad. They're meaningful because they let us explore our characters at their lowest point. That we get to see.
See, and that's why I'm struggling here for having 2 points. How can you have 2 of the Darkest Hours, let alone 3 of the Darkest Hours? But I think that's a tier system, right? Like the first one is the darkest hour of the main character. It's the darkest hour for Husai specifically. Then the second is the darkest hour for the entire alliance, which is them confronting the Monarch for the first time on the top of the tree. When you hit rock bottom, it can open up beneath you. That is how it happens. Well, it's just the thing that, like, Zayd dies, Husai goes on his whole crusade of trying to find something that, like, will give, like, feels like in his head will give Zayd's death meaning. And he's obsessed over the things that Zayd has said that Husai needs to look into. And Husai never took it seriously. And now he is. And that's how they find the Warriors of Light. So it's like extremely important. Smokey, welcome, welcome. And that's also a huge moment for the reveal of who the true enemy is, which is the Monarch. And getting everyone behind wanting to kill the Monarch. Or at least perceiving the Monarch as not what he is, right? And then it's the entire planet that's at the darkest hour, because it's whatever decisions are made, the destruction of the planet hangs in the balance. So it's not necessarily that there's 3 different darkest hours, it's that there's darkest hours for different spectrums of characters. The individual, the group, and the whole. Which I think is actually more interesting, because it gives complete depth to your character, it gives complete depth to the hero's party who's trying to save the world, and it gives meaning to Gaia and the entire planet in the concept of what are the things that we're not willing to sacrifice, and the things that we're not willing to sacrifice are the eternal things. Your consciousness that will endure after the physical death of your body. But that consciousness can be eradicated by influence from a higher level consciousness. And the consequence of that is that that consciousness will not return to the source. It will be eradicated. So after the physical body dies, or even when the mind dies, it's gone forever. So that is way too big of a sacrifice to make. Sacrificing the eternity of a soul versus saving an entire planet. Which may seem like a lot, but it's not a lot on the grand scheme of things, especially on the scale of a celestial being. Even knowing that the dragons would die too, which are truly her firstborn. So that emotional connection between Gaia and the people of the planet is also extremely important.
The kind of person Batman is when he gives into his darkest inclinations. That we see the existential horror on Frodo's face when he collapses on the...
And it's kind of like that with Husai, because they use the anti-gravitic weapon to get inside of the Monarch's shield. And basically it's like Husai, the Warriors of Light, Varius, and like the main character, like the strongest characters, all the ones from all of the guild cities. And on the outside of the barrier, fighting the Viceroy, is basically everyone else in the world. All of the Adventurers Guild and everything. So it's like a kind of a 2-part battle where the Viceroy is destroying everyone on the outside, but it's kind of a stalemate on the inside. And Husai's like, well, if it's a stalemate and you can take over my body and become as powerful as the Monarch, then why don't you do it? And then that's like an entire internal dialogue between Gaia and Husai kind of explaining the consequences of destroying a mind, and that she's already lost the monarch and the viceroy, and she won't lose someone else. That's how important they are.
Slopes of Mount Doom and doesn't feel he can make it. That we see a world after Thanos has won and half the world is dead. Like, when they can't deal with these emotions, when they don't even feel there is a decision to make, or they straight up make the wrong decision. I tend to find the best Darkest Hours work not just because they're a setback or a big failure, but because they take something away from our characters that they depended on psychologically and emotionally. Jay's belief that he is the born replicant, the only one in the world, Rachel in The Dark Knight for Batman, or a mentor character. Mentors are often what bring our heroes through those reaction scene beats, processing the reaction, offering advice on the dilemma, pushing them towards a particular decision. So, without them, they may feel lost. They may go through that darkest hour. The best Darkest Hours convince us of what is at stake more than anything else before, and the ones that really stick with me do it in a deeply personal way. Characters don't just suffer a plot failure, you know, things don't just go wrong, they don't just lose, but they lose something that we care about narratively. Character
and the biggest thing that I want to do for this is because you only see Zayd at the beginning, but because of how strongly Husai feels about him, because he feels like he's his son, that he treats him like a son, basically, he's always talking about Zayd. You know, Varius is always talking about Zayd. Viceroy's always asking questions about Zayd. And you learn about Zayd completely vicariously. So it's like, if I can make you feel for that character through the other characters' interactions with that character without actually showing that character other than at the very beginning and showing like how much he wants to go with Husai, to the point he's willing to like disobey his orders and try to sneak out of the tree. So when he does die, it should be impactful because you've built up... Basically, I've built it up that this character is going to be joining the party, and they're going to be a party member. And then they fucking die before they ever get the chance to become a party member. And it's like, oh shit, what do we do now, right? And Husai can't take that, and he just breaks. Because he thinks it's his fault that Zayd died.
Struggles or places or people they have tried to protect, or a set of circumstances that they have tried to maintain across the story, something they have tried to prevent, even theme in a way. It's really a space to...
He didn't want Zayd to get, like... He didn't want to put Zayd in danger's way. But by leaving Zayd behind, he put Zayd in danger's way. But how could he have ever known that something like that would have happened, right? So it's just so fucked up and just beyond scope of the character that it just crushes him.
Interrogate the deeper ideas in your story, why they matter, the nuances around it, and what a world is like when those things aren't true, when they
My room
don't
suddenly
matter.
feels uneven.
And personally, I think symmetry, even if it's not that explicit, is a really cool way to bring that out.
You know what that reminds me of?
We're partners, I guess, and we fight aliens? Like Men in Black?
Men in Black. Men in Black. I have Men in Black 2 in here.
So you get the general idea.
Not quite. It's basically an endless string of callbacks to...
All right, save it for YouTube. I'll keep looking for clues.
What are you doing?
You want your shelf level or not?
And if I say yes, you're gonna provide that for me with that?
Yes, see the bubble?
I'm familiar with the bubble, Morty. I also dabble in precision, and if you think you can even approach it with your sad, naked caveman eyeball and a bubble of fucking air, you're the reason this species is a failure, and it makes me angry.
You're drunk.
You wanna put up a shelf, put up a shelf. You wanna experience true level? Do you?
Yes?
Oh, I know why the curtains they're falling.
Wow, it's so... Oh my god! Oh, Christ!
Yeah, true level, bitch.
Morty, come on, we're leaving for school.
Everything's crooked. Reality is poison. I want to go back. I hate this.
What's this deal?
Go to school, Summer. I'll go in Morty's memory and do a little...
Lambs to the cosmic slaughter!
True even.
Taking all of these things to their worst place just gets us to feel, and that's what we read these stories for, right? We want to feel something for once. No, but we want
Curtains to the cosmic slaughter. True, Callie.
to engage in these emotions and feel enraptured and drawn in.
You put a space, Smokey. Why'd you put a space? You've done this how many times and you still can't get it right?
all of the range of human experience, and this is the moment that we so often get to the depths of that.
One of the things that
Now,
holds it
you
up
will know
fell down.
I have a weakness for something called literary symmetry. In Wall-E, Wall-E dies and Eve desperately tries to restore him with memories of his old curious life on Earth. But he's just a lifeless automaton, and it's freaking heartbreaking. But it's made so much harder by this one moment where he runs over this little grasshopper. The grasshopper that he cared so much for at the beginning. It was his friend, his companion. It gives us an emotional reference point. The thing we loved, the thing destroyed. And again, this isn't like any other setback in this story because there's this sense of permanence to it. It only exists in the context of the story lead up to this moment mattering symbolically.
Yeah, there's a grasshopper that I thought that was a roach. Yeah, true, book buyer. That definitely is not how grasshoppers move. Looks like a roach.
Characteristically,
I've never watched
worldly,
Wall-E, though.
plotly. It's only after Eve gives up that there is any hope, because luckily this is a Pixar movie and love is like the Force. It's everywhere and can do anything the plot requires. But it needs to be said, part 2, it's not over, is it? Characters do emerge from their darkest hours and they're thrust
Finding
into
of the
third act.
warriors of
That was
light.
just a dash too erotic.
90 sure it's meant to be a roach. I mean, that would make sense, because, yeah. You know, it's the end of the world, and roaches are the only thing that survive. Yeah, it makes sense.
For a mostly family-friendly channel, right? Is this a family-friendly channel? Do you guys have families? Are you guys friendly? Tell me down below. Anyways, Kay comes out of it. Wall-E does. Frodo kind of does, and then doesn't. Batman does. So, how? Why does that happen? Taking something that they are emotionally dependent on, a belief, a thing, a person, it forces them to find a new way to move on. And that usually comes from
And then
what they've learned across...
Basically, Husai then turns... This is another point, too, right? Husai turns to the Viceroy like a father in this moment. Because they've been through a lot as being, like, very close to each other on a administrative level, for being the bridge between not great luck today. It is what it is, right? There's a ladybug flying around my room. Nice. My insectoids are spawning everywhere, Levi. Quick count the spots. True book buyer. Nice! We tried, guys. Don't gamble, kids! I have more ideas! That's good, Callie. That's good. Anyway, so the Viceroy... Husai goes from, like, you know, all about treating Zayd as a son to looking up to the Viceroy as a father figure to losing the Viceroy when the Viceroy turns when they confront the Monarch for the first time. Rick, welcome, Bonjour, Surito. Would you perhaps like info on my different kinds of characters in my land of Ikria? Also, they can be like MCs or side characters, even antagonists. Also, knight. Nice. Book, a talk. True. Oui? What if Stella says, I will become the monster my mother deserves? Stella, treasured family. But one of her traits is that she's afraid of her reflection. What if, after becoming a monster, she gets over that fear and becomes completely callous? And her reflection is lost. Is her lost conscience. Took a photo so I could count them, but I took the photo from the side, but it's blurry, so it's a bit tricky to count. 18 spots, I think. Nice.
The story. Usually there's some kind of external force that comes into their lives in this darkest moment and forces them to reconsider their decision.
Exactly. And he's talking about a ladybug, Rick. He has a ladybug in his room, so you took a picture of it to count the amount of spots on its back shell. Stella is a character in Callie's book. She is the daughter of a character who is kind of a little bit demented. She turns people into pianos using their skin, bones, muscles, and teeth. And she turns Stella into a piano. I took a picture to take a picture because it's there. Usually they have around 15 spots. But it did let me count. Cool. Pianist or piano? No, she turns them into pianos. Yes. That's why I said she's sick, twisted, and demented. Turns them into a piano itself. She makes the piano out of the people. It's a really... It's dark fantasy at its fucking best. Yeah. It's fucking amazing. And not only that, because it's like... It's this really fucked up, like, undead world where... Yes, out of the humans, but they're still, like, alive. Yeah, grimdark. It's definitely grimdark, Sean. Nails are the keys. Her teeth are keys, like ivory. And bones. And it's like they're still alive as the piano. So they're, like, stuck in this tortured, fucked up, mine's better. The boobs. Maybe you could have like like the now I can picture is a piano with boobs. Could be 17 since one of the spots might cross the seam. Except you probably will make a prequel or sequel if my main anime works. But then I'll make a sick and twisted version. True, Rick. That's the best way to do it. I mean, mine's kind of dark fantasy, but it's like... It presents the world from the main character's view, which slowly goes from, like, happy-go-lucky, we're doing good, to, holy fuck, I have no idea what's going on in the world. I have no idea who my friends are. I have no idea who my enemies are. To, I have to sacrifice everything that I am, everything that I will be, in order to defeat my enemies. And that, I still can't convince someone in order for that to happen. Boob pipes. Now it's double boob piano. One top. And, like, an under situation below. Final Fantasy is dark fantasy to begin with. The world is always ending, and that's why it's Final Fantasy. Yeah, exactly, Sean. And that's kind of like one of the biggest tropes, is even the fact that the world has ended before. And that this new world that came from the old world will still be destroyed. And even by the end of it, the entire planet gets destroyed. And if you want to imagine it, all of existence gets destroyed. Are the penis the foot pedals? I mean, if they're a male, maybe. You know? Now mostly mine is about betrayal, following morals, resentment, regret, sacrifice, the whole enchilada. Yeah. You know, just layer in as much shit as you can, right? Fill in those holes.
Again, either they find something that elicits emotional change, like say Nick Fury's bloodied cards to show
Mine
that
is just
Coulson
sadness and
died
tragedy.
for them, that they need.
That's always good to have, book buyer. I love holes. Lol. Yup. Raymond Dow! Welcome, welcome. How's it going, bro? It's been a while. How are you, good sir?
To unite and fight Loki. These tend to be strongest when they hark back to something personal for the hero, reminding them of the
Surito.
bigger picture
Have a good night,
of
Rick.
the things
Take
that
care,
matter,
buddy.
and allowing them to see past
See
their
you
own
again.
pain or anger, or even process it. Or two, a lot of the time,
We are never gonna finish this video. My leave is now. True, Rick. What's up, y'all? We chillin', buddy, since school. Well, good luck, sir. May your dreams be ever inspirational and carry you to worlds you should never have thought or seen. And when you awake, they create the true story that you need to tell. I had to watch the crossover episode of Strange New Worlds, where two characters from the animated Lower Deck series come back in time to Pike's Enterprise. Spock laughs. It is so messed up. Strange New Worlds wasn't too bad. Like, when is the next season of Strange New Worlds? Okay, so it's this year. But they did, oh man, Pike is such a good fucking captain, man. I fucking love it. It's like between Discovery and Picard, it's like you got those as kind of two misses, but man, Strange New Worlds, fucking, it's like the darkest, I love it because it goes back to like the old Enterprise, right? Like Star Trek Enterprise, like with Jonathan Archer, like the time travel police, you know, the sphere builders, the morphing of the entirety of reality. Like, those kinds of scales of shit that I fucking loved. And it's like, the beginning times with hull plating without shields. Like, warp 4 is your fastest warp. Like, it's just so early in the evolution of the universe that like the Star Trek universe, right? That I love it. Because it gives you that sense of origins with it.
it's a person.
I can't carry it for you. But I can carry you.
60s Star Trek. Well, I mean, that's just classic, right? It's like, you can't beat the original. But everything else, like, of all the other ones, Enterprise and Strange New Worlds have, like, a really dark twist on it. Like, is it the first episode of Strange New Worlds? Where it's like, there's an alien civilization, and they find a derelict ship with warp technology, and they turn it into a warp bomb. And they find the civilization based upon the warp signature, but the civilization isn't advanced enough. And they literally go through and show, like, World War III, and how humans basically put themselves on the verge of destruction. And the only reason they came out ahead was essentially because they decided this is way too much, you know? Like, we've gotten to a point where at the press of a button, we blow up our own planet and end our entire species. Like, we need to start rethinking how we interact with the world as an entire species. And that's the turning point in the Star Trek universe, where everything kind of becomes more of a utopia on Earth itself, and like the creation of the Federation and the idea of the unity of species and preservation of knowledge becomes like extremely important. That's why the Prime Directive exists. Why you can't interfere with civilizations that are pre-warp. Because it's given a gun to like a 5-year-old, right? You don't want people to have technology that's beyond the scope of their understanding of reality.
Listen, do you know who you are?
Who reminds them of the things they have learned and allows them to try again. Okay, Momo, I gotta put you down because I have to gesticulate with both my hands. In a way, The Darkest Hour has 2 reactive scenes right next to one another. A reaction and a dilemma, and then the wrong decision, or them giving up.
Yeah.
And then something comes into their lives and
Which would be Various and Gluttony interview everyone that was at the thing. I just love TNG. Unearned technology is like giving a sword to a toddler. Either they can't use it at all, or else they destroy too much before they can control it. Exactly, Sean. The Next Generation is so good, though. It's a combination of actors and writing and, like, culture. Like, the culture of, like, 2001 to, like, 2006-ish? Terry Pratchett taught me we should be giving swords to kids. I mean, you can give them a fake sword, just, you know. Somebody gonna get hurt real bad, that's for sure.
Causes them to rethink their decision, to go through that reaction again, face the same dilemma, and make a different decision.
Yeah.
And that's
and it's literally replaying the events, because you don't see what happens. It is sad I pretty much quoted my own story. That's okay, Sean, you're allowed to do that. Give him a real sword, just don't sharpen it. I guess that's true. And depending on the sword, they might not even be able to lift it. Like an 8-year-old, like, a great sword like that, like a Y-hander, that thing's probably like 20 pounds. We should have been done the video like 25 minutes ago. But then where's the insight, book buyer? You know? Like, can we say that Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, is a great movie? Like, the original, tangents in bold. True, Sean. Like, the only tag should be tangent, but it should be 10 times. 10 times the tangent. I love that movie. Probably like 5 pounds for his Y-hander. Swords aren't that crazy heavy. I mean, Levi, like in reference to the 8-year-old. Like, it would feel like it was like carrying, like trying to lift like 20 pounds. And that's 20 pounds like on a length, right? The real problem is holding weight at the end of a lever. 2 is great, 4 is awesome, 6 is decent. I mean, the fact that, like, what they could do with what they had, or what they did with what they had, that is the true nature of, like, film and, like, art in the old days, when you had a limit to what you could do, and you had to work within that limit, whereas nowadays, it's like, you really don't have a limit with what you can do.
Structure that you don't really get to play with at other parts of your story. And because of that, it's also a great time for you to retroactively make moments and story beats in the past more meaningful.
Yeah.
Like bringing them back in some...
You mean it for like 40 minutes, try to work on my story? Alright, sounds good,
have
book
more
buyer.
meaning attached to it because they know what's coming in the future. Like the cards or
Good luck.
K. Joe on the bridge. Consider not
I believe
just
in you.
creating
You
a
got
moment
this.
of despair and then a glimmer of hope, but looking at what imagery or beats can return thematically or personally to best create that despair and then that hope. It can reinforce this deeper sense of narrative continuity and pay off in a way that other setbacks don't really get to do.
Yeah, because it shows so many things. It's like, you get to see an entirely different perspective. You're seeing a character that you have seen and influenced through a vicarious measure being presented in an extremely hyperbolic, over the top, and exaggerated way, but with speckles of truth throughout it, such as the monarch killing him. And just that moment in and of itself is just supposed to be so powerful because it reaches back to the very first chapter and the way that Torg died. What was the channel for stories on the Discord? You can put it in public stories. That's where most people have posted their stuff. You got a story, Raymond? I would love to read
There's
it.
one thing I hate with some Darkest Hours, and that's that sometimes characters will resolve every personal issue they have before they head into the third act. You know, they'll come out of the Darkest Hour and be fully resolved emotionally and internally. And because of that, the climax is left to be mostly plot tension, not character tension. And that isn't inherently bad, you know, but at the same time, if I've seen that a character has already resolved all of their personal issues, then
what's the point of having the character?
I'm pretty sure they're going to save the day. You know, I don't tend to buy into that ambiguity as much, and so the plot tension is in a way weaker in itself. And there are lots of exceptions to this, but it is something to be aware of.
Scott Pilgrim movie
MCU
had a pretty good
television
Darkest
in particular
Hour.
all the time, but given we get most of our attachment to stories from characters, sometimes the plot tension can fall a bit flat if it doesn't have that character element. So Age of Ultron is partly messed up by how the characters either have already resolved their character arcs by the middle of the film, like Wanda, or the Darkest Hour is kinda disconnected from their arcs, like with Tony and Steve. The one character whose arc does resolve during the climax, Discount Quicksilver, isn't that interesting. There's fighting, but it's not clear what that fighting means personally, especially because even their decision to fight doesn't come out of resolving any personal issues. It's just
Never mind, I
things
already put it
said
in there.
and a decision.
Oh, which one is it, Raymond?
Instead,
Is it way up here? Oh, here it is. Way up there. Yep. Way up there, Morty. Way
instead
up
of having
there.
them exit the Darkest Hour with a
Alright, yeah, we can read that. No worries.
chance of it, but still some uncertainty. They haven't proved to themselves or to others or the world, but they're gonna try anyway. And that ultimate test comes in the climax, where we can see who our characters really are when the chips are down, whether their change has been real, and it's set up to test the things they have learned. That's another thing that kind of sets the Darkest Hour apart from other failures and setbacks and obstacles. It is a the chips are down moment that you only get to do a couple of times in the story, here and during the climax, but in the Darkest Hour we're meant to believe that they failed, character-wise or plot-wise. Part 3, don't worry about all this too much. With all of this focus on scene structure and symmetry, it's really easy to get caught up in thinking, you know, especially if you're still learning, that this is the right way to do it. This is the only way to do it. And if you don't fit this structure, your story isn't good. And I want to tell you that is not true.
The code is more what you call guidelines than actual rules.
And anyone who tells you otherwise is either lying to you or trying to sell something to you. Speaking of selling to you, my Patreon. Sometimes, in negative arcs where the characters change for the worst, it can be a powerful moment to have them give up on the character growth tension, but not the plot, deciding to pursue the antagonist in a bad way, thrusting them into the third act anyway. My favourite episode of Doctor Who is Waters of Mars, where the Doctor finds himself amongst a crew of scientists that he knows are about to die, but he can't save them. He can't interfere because the laws of time say that this event needs to happen. So he spends the episode getting to know them and wishing he could help, till the darkest
7
hour,
Days
and
was a
he's
great
hopeless,
series.
and he knows he needs to leave them to their fate, but he doesn't.
It's taken me all these years to realize the laws of time are mine, and they will obey me!
So yeah, the Doctor gives up on his moral code, but that decision is what triggers the third act, and he doesn't reconsider this in any reaction scene until after the climax, because this is a negative arc. And it's morally complicated because it doesn't feel like the Doctor is giving up, it feels like he's saving the day, and his despair at his lowest point is coming from him sticking to his morals. The same thing almost happens in The Dark Knight. Batman doesn't give up or walk away, he abandons his morality to pursue the Joker, setting it up for the third act with that ultimate decision. Will he kill him? Sometimes the darkest hour doesn't really come to what feels like the middle of the climax. You know, those moments where everything slows down, no, and we see our background red shirts getting shot down and everyone's going, wow, man, you guys were winning like 2 minutes ago, what the hell happened? He's thinking, oh, the power of friendship certainly didn't save Dave, and that is fine, okay? Avengers Infinity War did a weird thing where the film ends during the darkest hour, and we spend the first third of Endgame exploring what the...
And that's kind of what happens in, like, the end of the first book, because it's like, you're going to confront the Monarch, it's the final moment, everyone's on, you know, ready to go, and then it's like, the Viceroy turns sides, and then everyone just gets, like, completely fucked, and you get to see the true power scale of the Monarch. And it's like, we've already done the contrast of the power scale of the first chapter, 75 adventurers, just barely defeating the Emerald Weapon, and then the main party coming in and just dropping the Emerald Weapon like it's fucking nothing, to them getting completely destroyed by the Monarch and the Viceroy. Still haven't watched Endgame. Really feels like there didn't need to be another movie after Infinity War. Endgame's not bad. It has its moments, but I do feel that, Levi, that Endgame was a forced ending, whereas Infinity War could have just been left on that ending of they didn't win. And then you have the imaginings of how that affects the future of the world. And I think if they had done that, we wouldn't have things like this. The new fucking Iron Man. It's like, what the fuck? They continued through on the Infinity War timeline. That could have been quite good. Yeah. They'd... Bruh. True, Raymond. True.
Those feelings are that...
Yeah, because actually, I'll just bring it up, because it's fake, but it's fucking funny, because the series is real, but... the trailer isn't. That's Thunderbolts. Yeah, I think it's this one.
Keep forging your own path. Keep reaching for what inspires you. After all, you never know where you'll find inspiration. Wakanda's changed things. Forever.
So good to finally meet you.
Get out of my door!
Here's what I do know. Stark chose you.
Let's go!
He said that you were the only person with the means and knowledge to finish what he started.
Apparently the series of the movie is real, but the trailer is completely fake. Yeah, I'm like, Disney is so fucked right now, man. Oh, then there's this. Let's bring back old Disney, guys. Bring back old Disney.
You know why Wonder Woman so...
Was it this one? Okay, maybe it was 2 days ago? No, it had been 4 days ago then. 4 days ago? Yeah, okay, here.
Going for them? Yep, there you go. They use rage bait articles, but they still can't make a profit. I know, man.
I gotta head off for my own stream now. Have fun, guy. True, Levi. Good luck.
And that'll teach them. What's this?
I'll have 0 viewers because I'm reading an old book for nerds.
Music from Naruto.
Okay.
Always a good time.
Oh god. Okay, let's look at all the crumbs and shit from the fucking backseat. Jesus. Okay. And yeah, throw her out. Yeah.
This
clearly.
is the Disney we used to have, guys.
Tariffs?
This is Disney now.
United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru, Republic, Dominican, Cuba, Caribbean, Greenland, El Salvador, 2, Puerto Rico, Colombia, Venezuela, Honduras, Guyana, and still Guatemala, Bolivia, then Argentina, and Ecuador, Chile, Brazil, Costa Rica, Belize, Nicaragua, Bermuda, Bahamas, Tobacco, San Juan,
That's a lot.
Paraguay, Uruguay, Suriname, and French Guiana, Barbados, and Guam. Norway and Sweden, and Iceland and Finland and Germany, now in one piece. Switzerland, Austria, Czechoslovakia, Italy, Turkey, and Greece. Poland, Romania, Scotland, Albania.
To be fair, it does have a
Patron
ring
was
to
just
it.
telling
Ireland,
me
Russia,
he's
Somalia,
Commander Consummate and thinks he'd be a perfect match for us.
Ninja Sperando, welcome to the
Smoking?
stream. Thank you for the follow, good sir. How's it
Why are you
going?
smoking?
Maybe.
What? When did you start smoking?
1980.
Dope time, I guess,
So you
guys.
have been lying. It all makes sense. The filled ashtrays, the burning pine-scented hairspray.
Yes, I'll say it. Her 3-pack-a-day voice.
Nice, Sean.
Arabia, Hungary,
Yeah,
Cyprus,
this
Iraq,
is-
and Iran,
this shouldn't be as
Syria,
good as it
Lebanon,
is.
Israel, Jordan, both Yemen, Kuwait, and Bahrain, the Netherlands, Luxembourg,
Wow.
Belgium, and Portugal, France, England, Denmark, and Spain.
Wow.
He's my
Well,
favorite
there we go, guys.
streamer.
There it is.
Alarms
Let me get back over his
999.
actual song.
He
Yeah.
is the greatest. First typo, then I fail. You almost like Asmongold. I mean, I'm like Asmongold in the fact of how far are we? We're 16 minutes into the React video and it's an hour into the stream. And I'm retarded. So I forgot to. Asmon's literally the best, though. I'm not gonna be able to get it from there. I gotta open my window. It's like 28 degrees and you're fucking retarded. But yeah, Asmon is the hero we need, not the hero we want. Or at least for most people. Another speedrun React stream, folks. Doing good. True. I like how it always takes you like 3 hours to watch a 40-minute video. Like the opposite of speedrun. For those of us who can't calculate the difference, that's nearly 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, it's fucking hot in here because I got like the TV, the 2 PCs, the monitor, the window is closed, the heater's probably going because of downstairs, so it gets fucking hot as shit in here. Well, it is what it is. We just carry on with it, right? That's what it's all about. Yeah, mainly the reason is because, like, for the on-writing ones, it's not as bad unless we're doing something like this, where the whatever we're discussing has a specific correlation to a specific moment or moments in my book. So then it becomes a lore dump of, does this idea hold up on its own compared with the, like, generally used structure of the creative process of coming up with the Darkest Hour trope, and how does my idea of that, or my interpretation of that trope come across, right? And it's like I said, like it's like 3 different scales of the Darkest Hour, which is Husai's personal Darkest Hour, the Darkest Hour of the main characters as an entire party, and then the Darkest Hour of the fate of the entire planet. And you could all even say there's the 4th Darkest Hour of the very, very end. Where's your book at, boss? Beezus writes. I have chapter 1, if you want to go to the Discord, in a talk story. Oh, wait, no, it's in here. The Final Fantasy novel. And, chapter 1 draft is here, if you want to read it. I believe it's like 8,000 words or something like that. It's not like, it's very jumbled because the reaction scenes from the main character that tie his connection to what's happening in the first chapter aren't present. They need to be edited in still. So this is like, basically, like, I wrote it, and then the edit for it was seeing if, you know, like, punctuation and, like, ideas and how the battle against the Emerald Weapon went. The exposition for how titles work and the main combat system was kind of refined a bit. And, like, moments for, like, how magic works were kind of displayed. But the entire idea of the first chapter is, like, the, tutorial at the beginning of the game where you're playing it like a really, really high level character, and it's like either in the future or in the past, and it's like teaching you the mechanics of how the game works. And the entire book is basically, like it says, it's Final Fantasy based. So it's got all the Final Fantasy tropes and everything in it. The only thing is, like, the main character is the only character that's human. All of the other characters are either beastmen or the main 3 races, which are octopi, insectoids, and avians. And we have, like, insectoids are in the works, let's say. They're probably the biggest thing I have, like, for what they possibly are. So this is, like, our best representation of what, like, an avian is. It's kind of, they've got, like, a basilisk tail kind of thing for their lower bodies, which is like an evolutionary thing, but it's like their feet basically became their hands when they grew out their tails, which included a little bit of genetic engineering and natural manipulation. And then, like, female avians, which are supposed to be, like, the sexy species. Like, you can tell that they're females, you know, they have breasts, they're very, very colorful, and, then you have, I don't have a really good one for the octopi either, but imagine them like their back legs are kind of braided together to stand on. So they have like 3 legs to stand on, and their head, and then their 2 arms. And they're very, like, swayy because they don't really have a body. And then the insectoids are like a centaurification of a ladybug. But they're, internal logistics and, like, armor logistics are still kind of a big issue. I'll take a look at it then. How long have you been writing for? Well, I've been writing since high school, but, like, the original story completely changed from what it originally was, like 18 years ago. Almost 20 years ago now. Jesus. Originally, it was a story about a closed-off world that was being reopened due to a, galactic alignment. And it's like once in every, 50,000 years this happens. And these beings used to use it to rule over everything, and they built portals that would make the worlds like open forever. And it's like in the old world, the people think that the portals were destroyed, but it's actually the portals' energy source was removed because they couldn't destroy the portals, so they took the energy source and hid it, and made rumors and tales that the gates were destroyed, so no one would ever try to even look for the power source. And this alignment is happening, and now darkness is spreading across the world because these beings are like black holes incarnate with consciousness, and they absorb all light around them, but they don't absorb physical matter. They only react with light, and they steal the light from like other dimensions and other worlds, and they feed on it. And that's why they were locked away, because they were basically taking all the light from all the other worlds. And so it's like this kind of story in the background of how there wasn't light before, and the battle to bring light back, and now it's happening again. And then it turned into the story that it is now. So we've got like 18 years worth of lore lined up and shit, but I found out when I was writing the first chapter that I'm not a good enough writer to get the full potential of the book. So now we are on a quest to become a better writer in order to facilitate that maximum potential that I believe the book has.
Action and dilemma and decision before they rejoin the fight. The whole action-reaction scene structure is often out of order. It's loose, and that is fine. It's just meant to help us look at what these story beats mean. Oftentimes, stories with a lot of characters or multiple POVs will have different narrative threads face their darkest hours at different points, and that's okay. That is fine. That's great.
Perfect.
So many rules about writing are just general guidelines that
the main thing that I use these for, it's not necessarily rules. It's I never took writing in school, right? I passed high school, for instance, right? I have an electrical engineering degree. But the main purpose of this is to take the ideas that I have in my head and structure them in a vocabulary sense. Oh, that's what this idea falls under, right? Like, for instance, the Darkest Hour trope, and then saying, okay, well, how does that relate to our book? Do we have this in our book? Does this need to be in the book? And then just kind of looking at the narrative structure and the plot and saying, what are we missing when we look at, we either look at it as a whole or we zoom in on it. It's like we need to figure out where the holes are and what we can fill those with. So it's a great way of just structuring and organizing everything in my head so that I can lay it out in a way that it's meant to be. And especially with presentation. Especially with figuring out that the Monarch kills Zaid, which brings back to the foreshadowing of the very first chapter where Torg dies, and just the specific way that it's done, you as the reader know that it's the Monarch, and the only other characters that know are Husai and Sid. And then it becomes, do we release this tape to the adventurers and tell everyone that, oh shit, the Monarch, this is the Monarch. This is the person that we thought was on our side and helping us out. But yeah, no. There is some dark, fucked up shit going on in the background that we can't see. And it's like you've been presented this throughout the entirety of the book, especially in the way that the world is physically, geographically, and dimensionally. If to a normal person getting the description of what an area looks like, you'll scratch your head and be like, man, it really sounds like a cataclysm did something here. This isn't natural in any way, shape, or form. But to the people, it feels natural because it's all they've ever known. And that's because the Monarch pulled the moon out of the sky and basically completely rewrote the geographic structure of the planet. And what we did to make it as realistic as possible... Actually, we already have it open, I think. No, maybe we didn't. We closed it because we're retarded. No, is it in... Why? Oh, I'm in stream. I want to be in desktop, that's why. Here, maps. So what we did is we basically took the entirety of the main 4 continents, because there's 4 continents in the book, and we kind of smashed them together. So these are the mountain ranges that were created by basically the Earth being smashed together super fast and like crumpling together. So because of these things happen so fast, it almost feels like there's a valley split down the middle of the mountains. Like they haven't had time to fully form together to create a mountain. It literally looks like 2 giant piles of dirt smashed together, which is literally what it is, because that's what happened. And then we use just all the areas in there to figure out like what the terrain of certain areas and where our cities go, essentially based upon those areas. And that's how we use, for every idea is grounded in something based on reality and then extrapolated to an extreme, essentially. Just like the main thing in the book is the crystalline tree.
The best pieces of literature flout anyway. Like, here's a question. When is Zuko's darkest hour? No, really, because it's not during the climax when Aang has his. It's gotta be after he signs with Azula, right? When Iroh is gone and he has everything he thought he wanted, but he is miserable. We see that double reaction scene bit, right? When he makes the wrong decision before his unhappiness forces him to take another look, and May comes in and prompts that further looking into what he really wants, and he then makes the right decision and joins Team Avatar. But this whole thing takes place over several episodes, and that's several episodes before the finale anyway, so the structure here, it's loose, alright? That's fine. And sometimes a horrible catastrophe in the form of the Darkest Hour just doesn't fit, okay? The purpose of the Darkest Hour a lot of the time is to heighten that juxtaposition and feeling with the climax up here and the Darkest Hour down here.
Mhm.
The intensity of that success and lowest point being right next to each other heightens the feeling of both of them. But not every story has that or needs that, okay? Sometimes stories are just written about experiences and empathizing and understanding those experiences. Like Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. It has a climax, but it's not like a triumphant victory like we often imagine. It doesn't have that we won moment. It's a character deciding who they really are and what they want to hold on to and what they want to let go of. It's pretty subtle, it's pretty low-key, and it doesn't demand a Darkest Hour moment. You know, if you're writing about the genuine experiences of an abusive relationship, or of suicidality, or of what it's like living a high-stress job, you know, it may not follow that pattern, and that's fine. Tragic dystopian stories often don't have a Darkest Hour.
Because the entirety of it is Darkest Hour.
But a moment of hope, of feeling like it is going to turn out well, then to be ruined in the climax when everything falls apart.
Yeah.
You know, we sort of get that in 1984, where Winston discovers the truth about what's been going on, and he thinks he's going to be able to spread it to the world. But then, of course, he's captured and tortured, you know. There, the reverse is even better. So you've just got to look at what your story needs. The point of the Darkest Hour isn't that having a particular scene done in a...
Actually, a good point of this is thinking back to, like, Cryogen. The Darkest Hour in Cryogen is basically at the very beginning. And that's what prompts the character to go on his journey to completely change his life. Because he's been musing that his ship is going to kill him, but his ship literally almost just fucking killed him. And he's like, okay, guys, this is like a moment of clarity. Like, we need to get the fuck off this ship. We need to get our shit in order. We need to fucking start doing something, because this ain't working. And then from there, it's just his continuous rise to gaining more and more wealth, influence, power, and eventually everything that he wants. And then, of course, he loses it all because of his greed.
Particular way at a particular point, in your story
I'm
is
back!
going
Welcome
to
back, book
improve
buyer!
it, or that every story needs it. It's that putting a character through a deep personal crisis in this way that the story has been building towards this entire time makes for a good story. It helps us get invested in them.
And it's like setting up all of these plot points at the beginning between the characters, like the only character that we only get the internal dialogue from is Husai. I'm up to 37k now. My first chapter is almost 1.2k now. My second is about 600 words. Nice, book buyer. Keep at it. All about slow and steady, you know? And then you just continuously keep going slow and steady, and then the next thing you know, you got a fucking book. That's all you need.
And this is just one of the ways that some authors do it, you know? Don't force your story to fit this structure. Use this structure to look at...
I found I do better with really fast. I wrote my 37k in like 8 hours. Yep, that's how Sean did it. He wrote the entirety of Cat version in 3 days, and then he spent 3 years editing it. And I thoroughly enjoyed Cat version. It's a very, very good, like, family-oriented story of, like, accepting yourself and, like, self-discovery. It's great. Slice of unexpected life. Exactly, Sean. That's a great way of saying it. Slice of unexpected life. Isekai meets slice of life.
But what your story might need or how it could be improved. Part 4, mental illness. This is something you guys know
Viceroy!
I like to bring it into discussions like this because
Dual
sometimes
personality.
people use depression or suicide as the darkest hour. Like, look at that film Elf, where he's planning to throw himself off a bridge. And I get why you would want that. It's a powerful, moving, complicated emotion and scene. But here's the thing. I've talked about the good story problem before. The idea that story structure or stories a lot of people would enjoy don't necessarily reflect the realities around mental illness. Darkest hours are meant to be the lowest point for your characters, right before they, quote, win. But the reality...
Uzai isn't necessarily contemplating suicide, but he is depressed and reclusive for like 2 chapters. Well, you see all the other characters coming in to his office slowly and just having conversations with him. Just talking about things, you know, trying to get his mind off of it. That is one of the main themes in my book, anxiety and depression. It's a very powerful thing to have in PTSD, but I need to add more of that in. Ah, nice. Yeah, because it's like, Husai's gone through all of this before. He's gone from being an adventurer to trying to discover the truth about reality to accepting he'll never know and trying to mentor people who have that attitude and trying to get them to have the same level of acceptance that he does, that not all things in the world can be truly described as they are. Some things are beyond, like, the current conscious level of their species, essentially. And accepting that is really hard for someone who considers themselves like a scientist and a scholar, right? And someone who knows through a physical attribute that there is something more going on, and he knows that it exists because he is the experiment that it is enacted through, but he can't find the source through which he can enact it. And that is an extremely frustrating thing for him throughout his entire life. Hey, book, I forgot to cite the site you suggested me earlier. Absolute Right. What is that? Community for writers. It's a website that has been around since 1999. I've used it before many times. Interesting. I will eventually get to that stage of it. Like I like to get comfortable with where I am and then slowly move my line outwards. And currently, we are at the engaging with the outside of the writing community in general. But I haven't, like, specifically gone for any kind of online presence other than on, like, Twitter or streaming, right? Like, we haven't escaped the bubble of streaming as a writer, right? Sean was lamenting that he wasn't getting comments, so I suggested the site. He won't get, like, 100 plus comments, but he will get more than he has now. Yeah. I mean, you got to think about it. Okay, this is how I think about it, Sean. If this puts anything into perspective. Okay, let's take something that's like a month old. Just to like have given it amount of time to. So this is a short video, right? It's got 1.2 million views, and it's something that a lot of people would comment on because it's a controversial topic about Snow White. It has 1.2 million views, and it only has 4,376 comments. Like, what's the ratio on that? That's the percentage of commenting versus views. So that's like one comment per, I guess, 3 comments per 1,000 views. So, like, comments are not as common as you think. And this is, you know, this is just a drop in the bucket of an analysis, but it's like if you look at most things, it's like less than 0.05% of people comment on anything. So unless you have a significant amount of views, you generally will not get a comment. And the comments, like, scale because of replies. So once you start getting comments, then you get your, like, maximum comment. Now the fun part of trying to figure out that site, it's not as simple as you understand for me as RR is. Even Mic Drop by BTS has only 3 million plus, and it has over 1 billion views. If you have any questions, let me know. True. Yeah, so it's like, people think that the commenting ratio is substantially higher than it actually is.
Is the depths of your worst depression or worst suicidal episodes do not come near the end of your struggles.
No.
And certainly don't stop with an epiphany about the power of friendship. It's much more likely to be somewhere.
Power of friendship is a very thing because we love anime and we love the idea of the power of friendship, and the power of friendship is very, very important, but it's not the end-all be-all. It's like the idea of pushing yourself past your limits, right? Like it's something that's understandable in reality. Like, if you have something to hold on to, and you have something that's important to you, then you will physically and mentally be able to go beyond your capability for a short period of time in order to protect that thing that you love, right? And that's a very human thing. It's like going into overdrive mode because you're, like, in the moment, on fire with whatever's going on. Only reason I'm not dead is my dogs and my fear of death. The only reason I'm not dead is because my neighbor was my nurse, and we knew her through the church. And she risked her job to give me antibiotics before asking the doctor, because she had lost a baby 2 weeks earlier to the same thing, because I was born with spinal meningitis and pneumonia. And she knew instantly, and she gave me antibiotics before asking, and saved my life. That's the power of connection. That's the power of knowing. That's the power of the people that are close to you. So never forget the connections that you have, because you have no idea how they're going to impact your life. Very, very powerful life lesson.
In the middle of your struggles,
yeah,
because the road to healing is long and windy and feels like you're constantly falling back or going in circles a lot of the time. This is something I think,
and that's another reason why, like, people have said that, like, I have an extremely, like, out of place, like, imagination, and it's probably because I had multiple, like, life fucking, like, well, I forgot the word, near-death experiences as, like, a fucking baby, which can completely open your mind even at that point, because it's like enacting all of your instincts to try and stay alive, right? So it's like, plus I'm left-handed, I have the Simeon's crease, I'm epileptic, yeah. My connection to you, Atox, is what made me able to finish a novella. You were the first who didn't judge me for using AI and even almost encouraged me to use it to help me. Yes, book buyer, because I think people are retarded, and not using a tool that's given to you is ridiculous. Now, going like this, for instance, I'm going to add a caveat here. Going like this. This is actually probably a good chance to test this, because Grok has significantly improved since I've done this before. But at a certain point, usually around the 800 to 1200 word mark, is where everything starts to fall apart. So it's like anything before that point kind of has its own, like, you can feel the structure of it. Yeah, see, what I do is this. If you look at, like, for instance, one of my actual AI stories, right? Let's go back, it's an earlier one. Viking Saga. So we basically gave it... Oh, wait, this is a synopsis of it, not an actual... I wish I had better titles for these. Urban Thief's Final Heist? Or is this just a prompt? Okay, these are just prompts. So let's go down here. Feast of the Divines. Is this an actual story? Nope, this is an edit. Man, it's really hard to find shit on here. I kind of do that, but direct it and give it a lot of ideas myself. Yeah, I guess an easier way to do it is just do this. So what we do is we go... and we take our plot. And we have the idea. You know, we have the plot. We have a location, a time period, character's perspective, event, intro, rising action, climax, falling action. Conclusion, right? And then we have, like, the scene list of the structure of the story. And then we take all of this right? We drop that into Grok, and then we go and we say, write a 2,000, 3,000 word story about You know, mention time period fluidity and rising action, use standard sentence and paragraph format, use combination of authors, X and Y, which we have this for. So we figure out what authors we want. We combine those authors, and then we have like extra prompts, like use imagination perspective to show depth, use a combination of authors. Oh, that's actually extra. And then we can add in extra prompts as we go, and we take prompts from the chat and stuff like that. So we add a lot of creativity to it. But it's like, even then, it's like, to me, Tamora Pierce. Yeah, I don't know who suggested that, but that was one of the chat's favorite authors. So it's probably someone who's in here, because it was either... Oh, it was Sean. There you go. See, I was like, it's either Sean, Eggy, or... Angie Sage is another good one. I'm sure it is. I'm like, wait, those are my only viewers? Oh, I'm trying to... Unnatural Disaster might have put in one. Don't know. But, yeah, not using tools that are given to you is ridiculous. People that are against AI and, like, hate AI, I'll give you a good example of this. I actually found this out. So there's this, it's usually on my feed. But there's this video. It's probably not for this account, though. It's for my other account. What is... Oh, fuck is it called? Who the real villain in The Matrix is. Is this it? Yeah, okay. So let's look at this video, right? So I didn't realize this when I looked at it. This is 448k views. The guy has 8,000 subscribers, and if you look at every single other one of his videos, 2K, 500, 1.5K, 1.5K, 1.9K, 700, 5K, 5K, 1.3, 88, 1.6K, 3K, 1.6, 800, 700. Those are all of his videos. So why did this one get 484k views?
Hi, you fellas.
Well, obviously because it's about the Matrix, right? Then I looked at the comments. AI disclaimer. No, the script for this video is not AI generated. I wrote the whole script in my native language, then I used AI to translate it to English and make some adjustments to the content, related wording to enhance the presentation. But all based on my original script. I then used a text-to-speech tool to create the voiceover. Manual human video editing, no outsourcing for AI, all of movie clips, text overlays, music, and everything else. I use auto-translate and voiceover because I'm not a native English speaker, so I feel the presentation gets better, save time. Makes complete fucking sense, right? Translated by AI. Oh, so it's done by AI. Don't admit that and then try to change the story. Like, what the fuck do you mean by that? It wasn't written by AI, it used AI tools. But this guy can't even understand the nuance enough to say that, oh no, so it was AI, so don't fucking lie. Like, what the fuck? And then this guy's like, translated by AI and written by AI are two different things with separate implications. AI as a translation tool is different. Exactly, Book Buyer, but I'm just trying to say that, like, this is how, like, the people that are against AI, this is how retarded they are. That they can't even understand that, like, Google, like, if you ask them, oh, do you like Google Translate? They probably like, yeah, I love Google Translate. And then you'd say, like, well, Google Translate is facilitated by AI. And they'd be like, oh, no, I hate Google Translate because Google Translate is used by AI. And it's like, dude, you don't have any principles. You're just fucking mad because of AI. Like, shut the fuck up. Who the fuck cares? It's a tool. People are gonna use it. But it's like, there's so many people that are like, by the misleading title was AI's mistake, I guess. Missing trilogy, just a short, unnecessary conversation follow-up. And then this guy responds, if you watch the video, which you clearly haven't, you would find that the entire video explains who the villain is, meaning the person who is pulling the strings and setting everything into motion. By the way, I didn't watch the video. I've been meaning to watch it, I just haven't had time to watch it. So, I don't know, I don't honestly know, but I mean, I'm gonna watch it, because it seems, I love The Matrix, it seems really interesting. It's like, who really was like the person in the background doing everything, right? And it's like bringing everything together. But yeah, and there's just so much shit here that's like, maybe they're gone now. Or they were just in the replies. I don't know. But, you know, people being like, oh, it was AI, dislike because of AI. And if you look at, like, I don't know. I don't have the dislike thing, but I highly doubt the dislike ratio is actually, like... But I'm like, he accomplished what he needed to do at the end of the day, which was he got an insane amount of views on this one video. Which is fucking huge. But I just thought it was interesting that, even something like that, which is clearly, even if it was done by AI, and it's like, again, at the end of the day, who cares? If it's good, it doesn't matter if you made it or an AI made it, right? If it's good, it's good. That's all that matters.
Beer Town.
And again, I'm an idea writer and reader. I care about the idea you're trying to present, not how well you wrote the story grammatically or how you structured the story. It's the idea that you were trying to present and the themes you were trying to present, did you get them across? That's all I care about. Because that's what I'm going to remember afterwards, right? I'm not going to remember the nuance of a conversation that a character had in exact words. I'm going to remember the impression and the feeling that conversation gave me, right? Like, when I think back to, like, Full Metal Alchemist, I've watched the series and Brotherhood probably 20 times through the entirety of it. And it's like, I can't remember a single interaction between, like, Ed and Winry. Like, conversationally wise. Something that they would have said to each other. But all I know is the way that Winry carries Ed's automail shows how much she cares for him. And I integrated that into my book between Husai and Hildebrandt. Any interaction on a video bumps it higher on the algorithm, so even disliking helps the video get seen. Exactly, Sean. And I'm pretty sure controversiality, which causes people to interact with it, is what pushes things to the top. That's why I want to try and present my stories with that moral grounding to it, right? That's like... Because this is the idea for my book, Book Buyer. The duality of good and evil. We have Anima, the evil guy, who wants to eat the entirety of existence. But while the beings are alive, he wants them to experience pure bliss, the amazingness of existence. No conflicts, get along with everyone, just spend your entire existence mating, procreating, and expanding your consciousness and evolving yourself to the next level. Until he comes and eats you. Gaia, on the other hand, who's the good being, who's the main planet, she wants there to be strife, challenge, dismay, conflict, horrors, because it shows beings the value of their own existence. And this is contrasted in the book in the stagnance of the tree, and how important entertainment, plays, songs, dances, and such have become inside of the tree. And there's kind of a reflection of first world countries in the fact that we are so privileged that we get upset over internet drama. Whereas then there's the rest of the world, which is the Adventurers Guild, where it's a struggle and people die all the time and there's no clear-cut way to engage with the world. And then people have a greater understanding of themselves through that, right? Whereas in the tree, they're all living vicariously, which kind of eliminates the essential underlying aspect of what it means to be alive, right? An orc! Nice! Some sexy orc up in here.
By Frederick Buckman did really well. The main character is traumatized pretty early on in the story.
She got hard bites.
We see their depression and self-destructive tendencies kind of develop across the story. And when she reaches her, quote, darkest hour, she's simultaneously considering killing herself or someone else. You're not quite sure which, but she's in an incredibly dark place. When she comes out of this darkest hour, it's not a
Holy shit, book buyer! That's a perfect fucking roll! 169%! I think we've only had that happen 3 times before. I've done it once. Some random person did it, and now you've done it. That's insane. Yeah, see what I said, book buyer? It doesn't matter if you're at 8%, you keep writing, and as you get the garbage out of your head, you can shift over, and you'll be at 169%. But you'll never hit 169% if you never try to improve that 8%. That's how I always look at it. It's like the perfect contrast.
Victorious climactic end where everything is better. Instead, Bachman wrote it so that we understand that she's on the road to healing, but she doesn't know how long that road will be, really. Just that she has a long way to go yet. That's actually something I tried to do.
Not bad, Callie.
There's a character who self-harms.
I'm trying to adopt that mindset. Not perfect, just better. Exactly, because it's never going to be perfect. Always be your worst critic, but have these 2 things. Expectations and hope. You hope it's a 10, you expect it to be a 4.
And has suicidal tendencies, and the arc of the book is towards healing of a kind. But them arising out of the darkest moment isn't them getting better, it's that they choose to
That's
talk
like
to
dating.
someone.
Well, true. It's brutal. You know what my biggest problem is, book buyer? And I've had chicks tell me this in real life, and I think this is the most... Like, this is probably one of the biggest problems I have with, like, the idea of, like, how, at least from my experience, how women approach relationships. I treat women like people. And you know what the consequence of treating women like people is?
The friend zone.
So anytime that I have, like, been interested in a chick, I always befriend them first to get to know them better, to see if I even really want to date them, even though I have feelings for them. And then by the time I explain that I have feelings for them, they're like, oh, you're just a friend to me. And it's like, well, that's kind of the point, isn't it? Like, you should start as friends and then move past that. Like, friendship shouldn't be the barrier. Friendship should be the entry point. And I've always found that interesting. I'd be more upfront in the beginning. The dating part is seeing if you like them. See, but that's not how... I guess that's how women think. That's not how I think, though. Because I'm like... Dating... is like, has expectations towards it, right? Whereas friendship kind of doesn't. Like, the low expectations on friendship is like hanging out, talking to each other, and engaging. And dating has way more nuance, way more high level of stuff. But you are dating women. So if you want to date a woman, then you have to somewhat adopt their mindset. It's very true. It's very true, book buyer. A guy who dates a woman he doesn't know expects a hookup for the money and effort he puts out for her. I mean, most people... Yeah, Sean. So I think that's a clash between... But like I prefaced this at the beginning, this is a clash of mindset between men and women. And I think it's a misunderstanding of this that we really have in, like, dating culture nowadays. You can have a very casual date. All of my dates have been very casual, and then at the end of, like, a 2 or 3 month relationship, it usually ends in an argument of, like, you treat me more like a friend than you do a lover. But that's always kind of my problem, is I try to do that, book, but I don't think that it gets across, you know? I try to be very communicative and like that, right? But I'm a very shy person. So expressing myself is very, very hard for me. So I have to be very comfortable with people. So that's why it's like I basically have to befriend you before I'm comfortable enough even talking about that aspect of it, right? And that, for me, actually, I think is a personal flaw that I need to get over, right? Well, then they aren't the right... Exactly, and it's like, maybe try dating an autistic person, they love being blunt. Yeah, very true, Book, and I'm not the type of person that gets, like, I'm the type of person you can explain something to, and I won't say that you're defending something, you're explaining it. You know how people say, like when they explain something, and then someone says, no, that's just an excuse, and you're like, well, it's not an excuse, it's an explanation of how we got to this point. It's like, an excuse would be like, well, this happened, but, you know, whereas I'm saying, this happened, and, right? And I think the nuance tends to get lost there sometimes, but yeah. I have and like I said, I'm massive at jumping and, like, beating around the bush. So, like, half the time people don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about. And they have to clarify. And I'll be like, oh, sorry, yeah, I meant this. And they're like, oh, well, that kind of makes sense, because, yeah, you said, like, using a person's name and then saying him or her, using pronouns, or some way of inferring that person through an adjective, and then not saying their name for, like, an entire chapter, but continuously referring to that person. But you never switch who you're referring to, but you never say their name. So it's kind of lost at a period of time where you're like, wait, you kind of are only at 85% where you're sure what they're talking about. And I think that's just an aspect of my personality going into my writing, how I like to not say things how they are, but say things how I think the person I'm presenting them to will most associate with. I didn't mean to unalive him. I was cleaning my broomstick and it went off. Projectile pops out of their head. The hole seals up and they gasp and they say, God, you had an excuse. Boom. Not broom. Oh, I was cleaning my boomstick. I'm retarded, don't worry. And say, thank God you had an excuse. Have to write in code, and that doesn't help. I know what Sean is talking about, but something went boom, and I like explosions, so. True, Callie.
For the first time, they choose to actually open up, which is a very important but often overlooked step. That is their victory, and the road ahead is still long. Mental illness just doesn't really lend itself to stories with being in the worst place and then suddenly at their best.
Yeah.
It's just something...
Boomstick is something I believe divers use to keep sharks away?
For that arrogance, I shall see you dead.
Yeah. All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up. See this? This is my boomstick! It's a 12-gauge double-barreled Remington. S-Mart's top of the line. You can find this in the sporting goods department. That's right, this sweet baby was made in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Retails for about $109.95. It's got a walnut stock, cobalt blue steel, and a hair trigger. That's right, shop smart. Shop S-Mart. You got that? Now I swear, the next one of you primates even touches me. Yeah! Let's talk about how I get back home.
One of the greatest movies of all time. It's my favorite example of an excuse and how they don't exist in real life. Well, the point of an excuse is, like, how do you say this? That's right. Shop smart, shop as smart. True. The point of an excuse is to displace. It's like vocabulary to displace responsibility and accountability. Right? Like, you can say there's a reason. Like, the reason that I shot you was because I was cleaning my boomstick and you happened to be standing in front of it. Right? It happened to be facing towards you while you were standing there. Right? I could have taken the initiative to move where the boomstick was because I knew the positioning of the boomstick and you may not have known the position of the boomstick. So the excuse is you were standing there, but the reason is I wasn't paying attention to where the boomstick was being, like, pointing. And I think that's, like, the contrast between a reason something happens and an excuse for something happening, right? And I think it's just simply vocabulary.
They want to be aware of when structuring a story like
Because you could have the best excuse, like, for instance, for me, it's like, oh, I have epilepsy, so that's an excuse for me taking 8 years off of work. Well, that's kind of displacing the accountability onto the epilepsy, not onto me. Right? It's like, as opposed to saying it was my decision to take 8 years off of work in order to care for my epilepsy. And I think that's purely a presentation thing. An excuse is a magical phrase which, when uttered, negates the negative effects of an action taken. Exactly, Sean.
like this. It also doesn't easily map onto the tension of, say, a romantic relationship where breaking up makes you incredibly suicidal, but getting back together makes it perfect again. There are weird correlations between those two, but connecting them like that is just not that great an idea. I thought you might want to be aware of that. But let's bring this all together into a summary. 1. Failure makes success meaningful, and the darkest hour is the best moment to demonstrate that.
True. The fall of a character that at this point has been the leader that everyone... he's basically like fucking Aragorn, and then he turns into fucking... not quite Boromir, but like more like Faramir. Doesn't go all crazy and shit, but he's like lost his purpose in life, and he's trying to live vicariously through someone else's expectations, right?
2. Setbacks throughout the story usually put characters through a reaction, dilemma, and decision, finding a new way to go. Darkest hours see characters trapped in their reaction, or making the wrong decision, or giving up entirely. 3. Darkest hours allow you to explore a character at their lowest point, their darkest...
and like multiple darkest hours across multiple scales of things to show the darkest hour of this character emotionally, the darkest hour of all of the characters because they're about to die to the main enemy, to the entire world basically being destroyed because the heroes aren't strong enough.
Inclinations, their worst fears. It often helps to take something the characters depend on psychologically or emotionally, forcing them to find a new way to look at themselves or the world. 4. Darkest hours convince us what is at stake.
Callie thinks he become a successful, making a living off his work. Author. Google says 57% of authors earn a living. I'm gonna make 57% by joining them. Nice. I mean, writing is a very fickle business, right? But I mean, I'm currently working a minimum wage job for like $30,000 a year. So it's not a very high bar to surpass that, right? It's just the how long is that sustainable for, right? If you're getting like $600 to $800 a month for like 10 years versus like $4,000 a month for a year and a half, right? It's like, at what point is stability, and at what point can you do both? And my decision at this point is do both. So you have the minimum bottom line security. I use the boomstick example because it's so ridiculous that it makes the point. We have a rule about boomsticks: always treat them like they're loaded, especially when you know they aren't. So a person who shoots someone while cleaning their boomstick is fully responsible for the accident, as they chose to ignore the rules. I mean, Sean, that may be true to you, but what's fucked up about that is that may not be true in reality. But that's how it should be. But then again, you have to look at different concepts of things, right? Like, for instance, if you give someone a gun, but you've told this person it's a toy gun, and then they shoot someone with it, well, is the excuse, he told me it was a toy gun, now is that a valid excuse? And I think that's where it's like, this is where the line starts to get blurry, right? Where it's like, I wouldn't call that an excuse, I would call that a reason, right? That's not an excuse, it's a defense. Okay, yeah, that's a better word. It's a defense, right? Where it's like, he told me it was a toy gun, it turned out to be a real gun. You can't say, oh, it's a water gun, go shoot that guy. And be like, ha ha ha, the fuck, right? And then blame the person who pulled the trigger, not the person who gave the person the gun, right? Well, I was gonna cite the Alec Baldwin thing with him shooting someone as like that dire line example where it's like, it's a gun in a movie studio so people know that it's fake, but if you're an actor, you know that blanks can kill people, and blanks have killed people. So you still treat even a gun on a movie set that you know is fake as a real gun. And that's something I learned in film in high school. I need to change my pillowcase. It smells. Damn, book buyer. That's never fun. I hate doing laundry. That's my worst thing. My worst thing in life is doing fucking laundry.
More than anything else. Character struggles, places, or people they have tried to protect, a set of circumstances, or something they wish to prevent, or they let us see a world in which your themes are not true or don't matter. Fifth,
Tim, I don't want to know about your bedroom antics.
characters tend to emerge from this darkest hour.
Sean, we all know that's a lie.
They...
Actually, that's you know, it's like, to be fair, you're married, so you know. Ew, it's because I haven't changed it in like a month.
Secondary.
If it was Eggy, though, I would say the opposite.
Reactive scene after something.
Everyone knows it's true that Eggy was thinking that.
Person causes them to reconsider. It also retroactively.
Only a month? It's fresh as a daisy. Yeah, my pillowcase is like only 2.5 years since I've changed it.
Before, more meaningful with symmetry and.
Tell that to my nose. Good thing I can't smell.
Calls. 6. Literary symmetry is a great tool for both creating despair and hope, calling back to things from early on and creating a deeper sense of narrative context.
Yeah, and that's like we were saying with this, is a good thing with this is like connecting the dots between the death of Torg, comparing that to the death of Zaid, and placing the Monarch as the connecting character between that to facilitate everyone having an actual reason to now not just like think of the Monarch as a negative in the fact they got kicked out of the tree and they can no longer go back to their family, but as an actual enemy, right?
Continuity.
Get some Autoban. It's a great disinfectant that has eucalyptus, so it opens your airways when you sleep, or if you treat masks with it. My brain is still baffled how a 25-minute video took you 2 hours. That's okay, book. It's because we are actually like taking the information that's presented in the video and applying it to either our book, our short stories, or our writing technique in general, and then using examples taken from our own writing to clarify and position and structure those ideas in a way, it's also because he doesn't ignore us too. Well, you guys are part of the conversation, right? It would happen to me, but to me as well, but it's weird to see something I do as an outside. Yes, it's something you have to very much get used to, of seeing like the reflection of yourself. It's like listening to your own voice, you know, looking at yourself in the mirror, and having someone who acts the same way as you do. Like, if you have a friend who's very similar to how you are, and you're, like, continuously, like, compared and stuff like that. Oh, and Book, to be fair, I wasn't paying attention to who made the pillow comment and thought it was Callie. I guess it is a little different when you're talking about bedroom antics, when you're talking to a chick, and when you're talking to a dude. There is a bit of humor lost there. Does he do things to his pillowcase? We don't know, Book, but it would be funny if someone said that, you know? Like, me and Eggy clearly like water sports. Like, I think that's been fully established. And Fuda, right? We don't want to know either. My secrets belong to me! True, Callie.
7. However, some stories just don't need this kind of darkest hour, and that is okay. Don't force your story to fit the structure. Use it to look at what might help the story you have. And 8th, last of all, mental illness
It
doesn't
says 7th! Where did 8th come from?
At the darkest hour.
As long as I never have to touch that pillowcase. Do you, bro. Do you, boo. 2! True! True, Book.
Our climactic victory struggle that we are so...
That's why you have to. That's why you do your own laundry.
Used to, rather than having them merge from any harmful thoughts at the end. Instead, let them start on a long, windy road to healing. But that is all from me. Again, if you want to support the channel, then...
Besides bedroom antics, might be building model airplanes or something, and that can leave some interesting smells. Well, I mean, like, my room kind of smelt from yesterday from, like, the nail polish and, like, the nail polish remover. Spend 20 hours a day in my bedroom, basically. Yep, that sounds about right, Book. Only reason I leave my bedroom is to go to work. And if I didn't have to go to work, I wouldn't leave my bedroom.